welcome back. So many of us dealing with the aftermath, if you will, of Hurricane Beryl, and a lot of us cleaning up with no power.
I know, and our first responders, they've been on the front lines helping community members, and this morning they're sharing some post-hurricane safety tips to keep us all safe. We're here now with Lieutenant Chris Fillmore with the Cy-Fair Fire Department. Lieutenant, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, I mean, I'm sure it's just been busy for you guys, but folks are really out there in this heat, starting to clean up, starting to use those chainsaws, and we were just talking about, you know, safety first. Really shouldn't be using chainsaws if you don't know how to use one.
Absolutely. These chainsaws, if you don't have any experience with them, if your neighbors have them and they have experience with them, have your neighbors come over and help you out. If you look over the owner's manuals, make sure you're experienced with them. Now's not the time to be learning. There's a lot of large trees, a lot of debris out there, so we want to make sure that everybody's safe with these trees whenever you're using your chainsaws, as well as watch for those power lines, those trees where they landed in the power lines, and even though we think there's a lot of areas without power, they can be re-energized at any point. So we want to make sure you're safe when you're cutting those trees and removing that debris.
Well, yeah, I mean, if a down line is hot, and it's on a tree, you could get shocked just by touching the tree even, correct?
Absolutely. We want to make sure if the tree's touching a power line, just go ahead and stay away from it, notify, let CenterPoint come out and they'll take care of it. Just kind of watch where you're standing, watch what's around you, down power lines, whether they're in a tree, on the roadway, make sure you're being safe, watch for those water puddles that are still out there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's going to be really hot. I mean, it's already hot. People are, you know, understandably frustrated, but they still have to clean up. Talk about overexertion safety, right? Because we can get really dehydrated here in Houston fast.
Yeah, well, we had that. It get cooled off the day that the storm hit, and now the heat quickly returned. So overexertion is definitely something that we're concerned about. The heat advisories that are out there, we want to make sure that you're staying hydrated, finding a cool spot. I know with the power out, there's not a lot of cool spots, but if you were outside working for a while, maybe take advantage of a cooling center. Just go find a spot to cool down, stay cool, stay hydrated, get your electrolytes in.
Lieutenant, I may be backtracking a little bit, but protective gear, I wanted to address that with regard to everybody being outside. It's not like we all have hard hats in our garage, so what are we supposed to do?
Find a long sleeve shirt, find some gloves, use that kind of stuff, some sturdy shoes. Don't go out there in flip-flops, or, you know, it's hot out, we're in summer mode, flip-flops are out, but make sure you're wearing some sturdy shoes, some safety glasses, things like that. Just whenever you don't want to get cut, we don't want debris flying around when you're using a saw, so just make sure you're wearing proper equipment to keep you safe.
Okay, electrical safety, because we have some cords here that we can talk about really quickly. So some of them are just not going to work out.
Correct. So
when you're hooking up to a generator.
We're hooking up to a generator.
We're going to talk more about generators in the next segment, but still, go on.
Just using them. This is just your standard, your little household. You run it to a lamp or something. We don't want to be running those through it from off your generator to for your fridge or anything like that. So we have one that's a little sturdier. You know, if you have it, you can use it. But right here we have our what we would like to recommend everybody use are sturdier lines that are not going to short out as much, and they're going to be able to provide the power needed.
Okay. So
all of those cords are rated for a certain amount of electricity.
No. Maybe. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Well, and I guess if you're going to the hardware store, in some cases the thicker the better, but you do want to check and make sure it's rated for the amount of power that you're going to use.
Yes, check the amperage on, check what it can provide, and make sure that it's going to meet the requirements that you're looking for.
You don't want something rated for 12 amps and you're trying to do 20 and run your air conditioner. You start a fire that way. I mean,
we don't want to overload them,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. If they're overloaded, they're going to heat up, they're going to melt, and we see a lot of fires start that way.
Well, let's go back to food safety, right? Because we're hungry.
We're starving.
Yes. And we got nothing in the fridge anymore.
Yes.
No.
But it's like, I'm going to smell it. I'm going to go, it's close enough.
Close enough. I can
Don't dip that chip.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So with the power being out, our fridges, a lot of the fridges have gone out. So if your food has been above 40 degrees for more than 2 hours, we're just going to recommend just go ahead and throw it out. Be safe. I know it's painful filling those fridges up. It's so much food. You went to the grocery store, you prepared for the storm, and now you're having to throw it out. But we don't want you to be ill now as you're recovering from this storm to go ahead and get ill. So make sure that you're looking out for your food safety. And if it was in there too long, just go ahead and toss it out and find that grocery store that's ready to restock you.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are open. If not, they're opening up as quickly as they can.
Yeah. So. Okay. What about our homes? Because I'm sure everybody's looking at their homes. They're assessing the damage, maybe seeing shingles that have come off the roof, but don't be climbing up on the roof. Don't be getting up there, right?
Don't climb up there. Find a reputable roofing company, have them come out. They'll do an inspection for you. Let them inspect it. If you were gone from your home and you're coming home, go ahead and check for damage. See if there's any cracks, any leaks in your ceiling. As you're walking your house, just kind of check and see. That'll give you a good sign if there's any roof damage as well.
Yeah, and speaking of the roofing company, you go to click2houston.com. You can search for our Amy Davis's piece. She did all about how to deal with roofers because we get so many people coming in from out of town. You may not know where this person is. Back to the house damage part. We talked a little about roof and maybe structural integrity. What about gas leaks? I wonder, I mean, a lot of our gas meters are either right on our home or they're at the edge of the property. Maybe a tree fell near them. Should we be smelling for gas, paying attention? What do we do about that part of the house?
We want to definitely make sure you're aware when you're approaching, just when you arrive at your property, just go ahead and make sure you're checking for any smells. If you hear a hissing sound, look for any signs of the gas leak. If you do notify that, go ahead and stay away. Call Centerpoint if you feel like it is a hazard. Call 911. We'll come out there and we'll make sure it's safe in the area for you, and we can monitor the amount that's in the air.
It doesn't take a lot for natural gas to become very dangerous.
Not at all. So make sure we don't have any ignition sources around there. We want to make sure we're being safe around those gas lines. And there's a lot of it. And like I said, there's people that maybe haven't been home for a while, but they're going to go home and find that.
Before we move on to the next break here, I want to ask you about injuries because I'm sure while you're out there, those small injuries, if you're cutting stuff, if you're working with sharp tools, if you get a cut, possibly need a tetanus shot as well if you're cutting yourself on anything that's rusted.
If you haven't had a tetanus shot in a while, or if you just don't remember when your last tetanus shot was, it doesn't hurt to go in. You can find a clinic, go to the ER, wherever you need to go. The ER is pretty busy right now, so if you can find a clinic that's open, they can go in and give you a tetanus shot. They can bandage you up and for just a small cut. Hopefully we don't have to see any major cuts. You're being safe with those chainsaws.
Yes.
But just
I was going to ask you, I mean, it's in times like this when you guys have to respond to injuries, do you find a certain amount of them are preventable? In other words, had the person just done some of what we're talking about, you wouldn't have even had to show up? I mean, what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw the devastation that the storm created, but it's when the cleanup and the recovery starts that we stay busy. Crews have stayed very busy these past couple of days, and it's not because of the storm coming through. It's the cleanup, everything that's going on, people out there trying to clean up their yards themselves that are getting injured, and it's kept everybody very busy as we're trying to recover.
And that heat exhaustion, have you seen plenty of people that have been dealing with that as well?
Absolutely. There's like I said, the heat advisories being out here, just overworking yourself. You want to get back to normal life as quick as you can, but just do it safely. Don't overwork yourself.
It's so easy to get dehydrated and start, but you start feeling cold, you start getting that stomach ache, and you're like, hold on, because you can't rehydrate that quickly. It's not like I can drink a bottle of water and feel great immediately.
And right now with the power out, you're not going to go, there's not really a place to go cool off right away either. So you need to just really monitor yourself and just don't overwork it. Pace yourself in the recovery. Help your neighbors, just look out for each other and take it slow.
Patience.
What are, just really quickly, Lieutenant, what are some symptoms that we just want to remind people of? So like chest pain, if you're getting dizzy while you're out there, it's just you need to stop now.
Headache, dizziness, blurred vision, that kind of stuff. You've overworked yourself. If you stop sweating, that is a very late sign that it's not good. Like the sweating is good, but don't overwork yourself to the point that you stop sweating. Now you've reached a point that you're probably going to end up having to go to the hospital for heat exhaustion. So
just the other night, I was feeling some cramps, just laying in bed like, man, I think I overdid it today, putting the fence up and whatever in the heat, You're going to stay with us. We're going to talk a little bit more about generator safety.
And welcome back. We are back with Lieutenant Chris Fillmore with the Cy-Fair Fire Department to continue our conversation, to go over some safety tips, specifically generator safety tips. We know that a lot of you guys out there are using those generators, so we want to keep people as safe as possible. Okay, Lieutenant, we're going to talk about proper placement of generators and even for different home structures.
Exactly. So just if you're in a regular residence in a neighborhood, you want to make sure we're keeping our generators 20 feet away from any ventilation openings, whether it's your doors, your windows, any exhaust, even the soffit of your house. You want to make sure that it's staying away. They create carbon monoxide, and we don't want that getting into your home. If you're in an apartment, don't put them out on your balconies. We want to make sure they're staying out. You may have to run more extension cords, but make sure that you're keeping them away because that carbon monoxide is odorless and it can be very deadly.
Because, Lieutenant, what we have seen in the past is that families, maybe they're worried that they could get stolen, so they kind of keep them close or maybe in the garage, right? And even just that little bit of carbon monoxide could get in and it could be deadly.
Exactly. Just that little bit of carbon monoxide that gets in. We understand the concern of trying to keep it safe, but we want you to be safe when it's something you can't smell. So if it sneaks up on you, and it can be very deadly when it happens.
And that's why we have these carbon monoxide detectors. There are some things we need to know about how they work, though. I mean, it's similar what you would think of like your fire detection, where you're just going to plug it in the wall or put a battery on it, but location's important. Tell us a little more about these.
So as we see right here, we have our carbon monoxide detector, and this plugs in low, so it's going to detect it early. We have what we talked about. We have the fire alarms, carbon monoxide combination ones that are up high in your ceiling, and that's going to give you a late sign that you have carbon monoxide, and it's going to be a large buildup of carbon monoxide. So if you're running a generator, we definitely want to make sure that you have carbon monoxide detectors in your home to notify you if that carbon monoxide is building up.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're not going to smell it, you're not going to know that it's occurring.
And that's a key point, though, that the carbon monoxide is heavy, that it sits low, and if this detector is up in the ceiling, by the time it's warning you, it's going to be too late potentially. That's pretty scary.
Absolutely. We want you to be notified as soon as way. Even if it's hopefully not deadly, it's still going to have some long-lasting effects. You're still going to have to go to the ER and get checked just for the buildup that it has in your body. Our crews are out running a lot of calls right now just due to carbon monoxide exposure. This is probably what has kept us the busiest after the storm, is crews responding to carbon monoxide.
And that's totally preventable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is, you can get a plug-in, as simple as a
simple
plug-in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Get a battery-powered one. If you don't have power right now, you can be battery-powered or plug-in.
Yes. Okay. Lieutenant, what about overloading a generator? Does that go back to the type of cord that you would use?
It goes back to, so it's our type of cord we're using, but also what we're plugging into it. I know everybody wants to plug in their appliances. You got your refrigerator, your window unit. Those are the common things that we're going to see plugged in. But everybody wants to have their morning coffee still. We're struggling a lot. We got to get that morning coffee in. But anything that's producing heat is going to cause that generator to overload as well.
It's the heat.
So microwaves,
anything that takes a lot of power.
Air fryers,
hair dryers.
Hair dryers.
Hair dryer.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the ones to look out for.
Yep.
Okay, so we obviously don't want to overload the generators. That's going to. Now we need to fuel our generator. For those of us that don't have it hooked up permanently to maybe natural gas or a big propane tank, what do we do about storing gas and handling the fuel that we need for the generator?
So hopefully you have gas on hand, but if you do, make sure it's stored in a well-ventilated area. We don't want it stored in an area that it's going to have heat created or not ventilate. So make sure it's stored in a ventilated area. When you need to refill your generator, make sure that you turn it off and let it cool down. Give it a little break. Make sure that it's not hot when you're putting that new fuel in there, and then go ahead and refuel it. Let it sit maybe for an hour, and then refuel it and get it going.
So you don't want me in the sun yesterday with the generator going and me pouring the...
Oh my gosh.
Oops.
No, don't do that.
What not to do.
Don't do that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Lieutenant, you got to keep it maintained. You have to have inspections. It's got to be up and running to the best of its ability.
Absolutely. So we have the owner's manuals right here. They gives you a little maintenance to do it, how to maintain your generator. So make sure you check it before you run it, or even while you're running. After it cools down, before you refill the fuel, go ahead and check the oil. Make sure it's still got oil in it. Just make sure that you're maintaining it so it's running efficiently and not going to be doesn't create a fire hazard itself.
Yeah, mine, they're supposed to change the oil every 50 hours. I said, with this kind of hurricane, that's just 2 days. You got to shut it down, change the oil, and do what you got to do. The other thing I read, though, is that some of these generators need to be properly grounded. What do you have to say about that?
Depending on how new your generator is, you may have generators that need to be properly grounded. It'll have the ground rod with it, so you can ground it. The newer ones have some safety features on it. They have trips. They have carbon monoxide detectors on themselves.
To shut themselves off.
They shut themselves off if they detect carbon monoxide. So just know what kind of generator you have, know the safety features that are accompanying it. Just make sure you're using your generator safely. Like I said, we're approaching those 50 hours for those generators, so a lot of them are going to need to be serviced, be maintenance. So make sure you have your manual, find your manual, look it up online if you don't know where you put it, and see how you can service it.
I mean, they're meant to be temporary, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, sometimes if you go way back to Ike, we didn't have power for 17 days.
Yes.
I know a lot of you are getting it online, but it's meant to be temporary, but sometimes that is 3 weeks.
Yeah. All right, Lieutenant Chris Fillmore with the Cy-Fair Fire Department, thank you so much for all of these important safety tips to help our folks and our families get through this difficult time.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much for having me.